Hello dear viewers, this video is about the BBC pay row. Well, Humphreys and Sopel are in trouble for in the green room supposedly being disparaging about a BBC colleague, and there's all this dispute about how much people are paid. Various big names in the BBC command different annual salaries. And do these really represent value for money? Men on the whole paid more than women. Is this gender bias? But the one thing is that the pay is individual. It's not by gender. It's, I suppose, what the BBC thinks this person is worth in terms of public sector broadcasting. So this touches on many issues. Is there gender bias? I don't know. There could be. I mean, on the face of it, there is. If men on average are paid more than women, but do they bring in more viewers? Are these men providing greater value on the whole? Obviously, there's some women paid more than some men. The whole thing is terribly complicated. So there could be greater transparency on all this. So the BBC was founded as a radio station in 1922, as television in 1936. There's a licence fee. Everyone who owns a television in the United Kingdom has to pay it. It's about £120 a year, even those who never ever switch on BBC. There are ways now to monitor how much somebody watches it. They can be charged that way. So it's a poll tax in a sense. Admittedly, one is not obliged to own a television, but no matter how rich or poor you are, you pay the same. Pension is exempt, by the way. People have often said there's an insidious bias. Well, right-wingers have often said there's a liberal-left bias to the BBC, and a BBC internal memorandum about 10 years ago said the BBC is disproportionately ethnic minority, left-wing, young, urban, and so forth. All factors which tend to run against the Conservative and Unionist Party. I think the bias is mild, if it's there at all. Nigel Farage made some good points. Why do we not hear positive stories about Brexit on the BBC? We hear all sorts of doom and gloom stories on the BBC, because I suppose most of its journalists are Remain. Anyway, there are many decent, objective BBC journalists who may well have liberal and left opinions, but they're still capable of doing their job in an even-handed fashion. Likewise, you could be a right-winger and still be neutral and balanced in one's reportage and commentary and so forth. So people find this alleged tilt to the left especially objectionable, since everybody has to pay for it. If a channel has a political slant, well then people should choose to pay for it or not. And curiously, in terms of broadcasting in the United Kingdom, one is required to be fair and balanced, whereas newspapers are not. They're allowed to have an editorial line and be slanted one way or the other. But when it comes to entertainment, why not leave it to the market? The journalist Richard Littlejohn's been saying this for years, and I concur with him. There are scores of channels out there, who've had satellite television for well over 25 years. So if we simply want big name stars, the private sector can pay for that. Why does the BBC have to pay these people millions? And the same goes for celebrity journalists, if that's what they are. Usually in the public sector, people are paid as little as the government can get away with because they want to keep taxation down. And the whole point of public sector broadcasting is, I suppose, it should have a higher tone, be more morally worthy, be more highbrow, not be simply about viewership. If people are solely populist and just want the numbers, they could turn to ITV, Channel 4, or any of the satellite channels. So the BBC could pay less and get people on who otherwise wouldn't get a viewing and make those sort of programmes. If it's mass entertainment, people could turn to other channels. So that's what I think is wrong with the BBC. It should not be paying these six-figure salaries to anyone, journalists are not. The BBC does make some fantastic programmes. It's my primary source of news. And there are lots of documentaries and all the rest of it, but it shouldn't have much to do with entertainment or indeed sport. So that's why they're all lovies who are squabbling that they don't get enough hundreds of thousands, and they're all quite indulged. If women do suffer pay discrimination, I think it's at the lower end of the market. That's what we should be concerned about, not these people who are suffering so much and $500,000 a year. Get over it. De-dums. My heart bleeds. If you can't cope with it, go elsewhere. Alternatively, the BBC could simply have a salary. If you're a newsreader, this is your salary, male or female, no individual contracts. If you are in entertainment or that kind of thing, this is the annual salary and you take it or leave it. And they do not give more or less to particular people. And that's why it's absolutely clear, and there will be gender equality.